还有一些问题还有待提高。所以说呢，我们刚开始介绍一下这本书，然后呢，很多的时间我们会用英文来解释这本书。先谈一下为什么要在这个暑期讲这本书呢？这本书是美国大学的教授专门在大学1年级讲怎么样欣赏文学。那么这个书是休斯顿的一些非常好的高中，他们要求同学们必读的书目。所以说呢，在好的高中，他们是要求读经典的。怎么样读经典？为什么要读经典？这是这多年以来我一直在谈的这个问题。现在先说一说今年为什么要想讲这本书。今年呢，我在教高中同学 SAT， 中国同学，尤其是男同学，在阅读理解方面，我觉得还有着很大的 challenge。那这个 challenge 主要是在哪里边呢？在欣赏文学作品里边的，尤其是18世纪、19世纪的英国作品，句子比较长，使用的单词比较复杂，尤其是在理解作品的思想内涵里边有问题。这样呢，在答题的时候只能使用所谓的答题技巧，正确的猜题。那么这种办法呢是有用的，但是是有缺陷的。所以说呢，我觉得同学们如果是学习好了，怎么样呢能够深入的理解文学作品，这样对同学们长远的发展是非常有帮助的。OK， 所以说呢，我们今天现在改用英文来进行这个讲座。那么这个书是《How to Read Literature Like a Professor》by Dr. Thomas Foster. He is actually teaching students how to appreciate letter to its fullest. Many of my students, after they finish one book, for example, Great Gatsby, they can tell me the story. Oh, it's a love story. Oh, he lost the girl and then he got killed. The story will change, but the major theme never change. Then how to understand literature? This professor, using 20 years of teaching experience, summarize the symbols, the themes, so we can understand literature a lot easier. So every tip is a quest, except when it's not. So its major theme is overcoming difficulty, going to a trip, and then challenge and trial. The whole journey, eventually, the reader will gain self-knowledge. That is the major theme. So this book is very humorous. It's a very humorous and it's a talk about using a lot of examples, but it's tell us the major theme. For example, eating. In a lot of novels, you have banquets, people eating together, but then this author tell us dig deeper into the religious meaning, which is a communion. It doesn't have to be religious. It doesn't have to be Christian religion, but eating together to share a meal and to gain understanding, to gain moral obligation between host and guest. This theme, starting from Iliad and Odyssey, starting from ancient Greek time, all the way to right now. So it's very humorous. People eat together. People eat food together to build a bonding between people. And then the vampire story. Nice to eat you. Act of vampire. Vampirism, many kids like it, right? So, but the vampirism doesn't have to be really eating people. Okay. It can also mean psychological exploration. The symbolic vampirism can be selfishness, exploitation, refusal to respect the autonomy of other people. Okay. Of course, my kids, always complain about how selfish. Like as a parents, I always force them to study. They think, we are using them to reach our aim, which is of course wrong. Okay, that is wrong. So sometimes, teaching them too much is bad, right? So many very similar topics in literature, 18th century, 19th century, even modern literature coming from either Bible or Shakespeare. Now we talk about Shakespeare first. Okay, why study Shakespeare? For 450 years, every generation of English teachers love Shakespeare. And every generation of school children hate Shakespeare. I have 3 students here right now are learning Shakespeare with me, actually Hamlet, the hardest Shakespeare play ever. Ask them seriously. And I have 3 students here, and they will tell me the truth because they are very honest. Alicia, okay. I see Thomas, and I see Young, okay. And you guys will tell me seriously whether you love Hamlet. And why I'm teaching Hamlet, the very hard play, very depressing play to teenagers. Is that responsible? Can you guys really understand it? Is that too hard for you? Do you love it or do you hate it? How much do you understand? So we are going to discuss this question, okay? Now, I've talked a little bit about Hamlet. I have been studying Hamlet for many decades. Okay, I feel to say that. But every time you open Hamlet, this book, and every page, you learn things. Because basically it's a conversation between you and the book. A conversation between you and Hamlet, and you are Hamlet. Hamlet is you. So the simple answer to the Hamlet question is, it's a revenge story. But there are thousands of revenge stories ever written in world literature. We forgot them all. We only remember one, Hamlet. And the analysis of Hamlet, the old books, old essays, old college essays can fill a whole library. That's my teacher told me many decades ago. And I don't understand it. But gradually as age, as maturity come in, and you gradually to understand. Hamlet is a heroic character. The basic plot is a revenge story. But then the main characteristic of this Hamlet guy is his indecision. He cannot make a decision. He's continuously talking to himself. And why? Because he has several souls merging into one body. And he has to continuously talking to himself in order to understand his surroundings. And we, as a human being, is the only animal ever that have to find out the meaning of life. And this process is continuous, whether you realize it or not. So Hamlet is you. You are Hamlet. And Hamlet is there as a mirror for you to look at yourself. Of course, he's melancholy. Last week, when we first teaching Hamlet, I gave a general description, and one parent after class tell me, this is a very depressing story. And why in the United States, the best private school always teaching Greek tragedy. And the best of the Shakespeare is not comedy, are the full tragedies. Why is that? And I remember when we were in China, a lot of plays, opera, Beijing opera, they end up happy. That is the major theme between the Western literature and Chinese literature. The concentration on the tragic side of life is the Western literature. And everybody is happy, is a comedy, make you uplifting. That's a lot of, not all of them, all of the Chinese literature. Okay, so Hamlet is a major theme. And another one, the author, like me, love it very much, which is Henry IV. It's about a young man who must grow up to become a king, take on his responsibilities. The relationship between a father and a son, a king, who want to bring up his children to become a good king, but this guy is a hooligan. He go to the bar and he become rub shoulders with the robbers, with drunkard, with the gambler, with all the bad people. How one generation put the value into the next generation, how the next generation grow up well and become Henry IV. How this king who was a usurper, who know he has doing wrong, but he still want his son to become a king and be responsible. And his son know it. His son don't like it. His son want to be a teenager. His son don't want the responsibility. His son don't want to do the evil thing like a king have to do. And so Henry IV is about how a young man grow up to be responsible. How a young people looking at this ugly world. Because to be responsible is to face the ugliness of life. And he became the best king ever in the British history, Henry V. So in the Harvard Business School, they have a case study. They use Henry V as a case study on leadership, how to become a great leader, how a great leader, his character was built. So again and again, I have to tell myself, why the British Empire become an empire, a small island, control the whole world. They have something because they have Shakespeare. They have Shakespeare, generations and generations, they build up the character, the strong character of the British people. So they can rule the world. And the other people got to be ruled, unfortunately. So learning Shakespeare can gain a lot of self-knowledge and self-control. Self-knowledge and self-control. That's why we learn Shakespeare. Next one, the author mentioned that's very important is Othello. Othello is about jealousy. It's about racism. Because the main author Othello is a Moor, and Moor, what is a Moor? It's very complicated. Whether they are black people or is it just Arabic people in the North Africa. This guy when the Christianity and the Ottoman Empire and the Muslim clashed, he became the major general of Venice. Okay. And then he married the aristocrat's daughter, and then he murdered her, and then he killed himself. So this play is about another very strong human trait, character, jealousy, and the destructive power of jealousy. And jealousy can destroy yourself and can destroy other people. Okay. Othello, the noble Moor, only because he's a noble person, he have a greatness in his character. And when a great character, a great people, when a good people fall and bring disaster to himself and other people surrounding them, we learn a lesson. We feel the pain. We feel the infliction of the pain in the character's psyche. Through reading of the book or through participating the play, we gain an emotional experience. That's why we study Othello. And next to Merchant of Venice, I have been teaching this one for a long time to my middle school students and high school students. And the Merchant of Venice was in the Chinese textbook. When I was in high school in China, we selected one small paragraph. The paragraph in the courtroom, okay? The Merchant of Venice, 450 years ago, Shakespeare already talked about the conflict between Judaism and Christianity, between the merchant class and usury, the people who lending money and charge high interest. There is an internal conflict between you people who practice high finance and the people who work to make a living, who really do buying and selling. There is an internal conflict. And 450 years ago, Shakespeare knew it. And he used this very strong emotional play to tell us. Is the conflict still there? Yes, the conflict is still there between Wall Street and supposed Middle America. And this phenomenon is all over the world, is ongoing right now. So Merchant of Venice is about religious conflict. It's also about high finance. And it's also, of course, about justice and mercy. And it's very complicated. The very famous monologue is Charlotte's self-defense. Am I a Jew? Doesn't Jew will be hurt? And if you use injustice to me, won't I use injustice to you? So the deep anger is deep in the play. And of course, the mercy speech, but the mercy speech is very hypocritical because eventually Charlotte loses everything. Next one, very important Shakespearean play is King Lear. King Lear is aging parents and greedy children and a wise a fool. The gap between generations will always be there. And when our parents have fame, have power, when they are proud, they don't know their children. and they make wrong judgment about their children. So King Lear is about a powerful king gradually losing his sanity, his grasping of the world, and how the greedy children can manipulate the situation, and how the really honest children won't be recognized, and how gradually at the end the king knows he's a fool. He thinks he knows everything because he have a power, but he knows nothing. And the real fool is the wisest person. The fool, he explored, the comedian is the only right person. The people who have all the power, the people who think he is in control, he will learn a terrible lesson at the end. So Shakespeare, again, summarizes. In this book, they talk about Hamlet. It's about self-knowledge, talking to oneself, find out life's meaning. Henry the Fourth is about education. One generation's education to another, and another new generation's self-education. Othello, jealousy. Merchant of Venice, high finance, justice and mercy. King Lear, aging parents and greedy children. That all these are deep down in every human psyche. Why we learn Shakespeare? Because it's about us. Okay, it's not about teacher. It's not about school. It's not about grade, even though they are all important. Okay. So sorry to spend too much time on Shakespeare, but that's important. All the Bible. Actually, if I choose, I will put the Bible first because there are so many Bible themes even in Shakespeare. Okay. All the major plays have biblical reference. Bible, especially King James version of Bible, are deep down in the English language, in the English people, I mean, including American people's psyche. All the great literature before and mid-20th century, writers who count on people being very familiar with a biblical story, a common touchstone a writer can have. That means even uneducated people in the United States, in the countryside, in the American South, illiterate people, they go to church every Sunday, or even if they don't go to church, the biblical language, metaphor, basic story, they know it. So there's a common knowledge. The authors can tap down into the audience psyche. So everybody is supposed to already know the story of Garden of Eden. David Goliath, John not well, Job, the book of Job, about human disaster. Okay, how to understand that good people being punished. Okay, these are very strong themes. Okay, King James version of Bible, I always thinking Abraham Lincoln have not much formal education, but he read King James Bible and he's one of the best orator, speechwriter, speaker, writer in the American literature. Okay, actually his historical document are literature in itself. Especially the second inaugural address is a masterpiece in the English language. Where he got an education? By reading the King James version of the Bible. Okay, the flood. Rain as a form of destruction. Rainbow as a promise of restoration. Remaking of the peace. After any warfare, right? After any warfare, humanity need rebuild peace, bury all this anger, band up all the wounds. Where do they get the metaphor from the Bible, the flood? Okay, Christ figure. The last book of Bible is the book of Revelation, the book of Revelation. Probably the most powerful English language ever. It's a scary language. 4 horsemen bring up disaster, warfare, famine, diseases. People are afraid of that. Whenever people fear warfare, economic disaster, people think about these biblical stories. Okay, so these are very important. And the other part the author is going to talk about is the fairy tale Peter Pan refusing to grow up. Okay. Little Riding Hood. Alice in Wonderland. Okay, I always want to talk about Alice in Wonderland and the Wizard of Oz. Alice in Wonderland and the Wizard of Oz. The first one is the best English language children's story. The second one is the best in the United States, the Wizard of Oz. The first one is written by an Oxford professor and a tutor for a 6-year-old girl, Alice, who is the daughter of the dean. This guy is a professor, but he's also a mathematician or mathematic philosopher. He studied high geometry. And he using Alice in Wonderland and also through the looking glass, using the 6-year-old girl's psyche to talk about logic, to talk about high mathematical concept, and especially the story is full of irony, the silliness of life, the silliness of logic, the limitation of human understanding. So he's using a little animal like a Cheshire cat. The cat that always smile and always disappear. And also Alice can become small and become a giant. And he don't understand what's going on. He got the disorientation. That is actually in the field of mathematics. So Alice in Wonderland, I always tell my students, you can only understand it when you are children. If you go to high school, probably it's too late. And the next time you can understand Alice in Wonderland is after graduate school, or if you're lucky, in the graduate school. I learned again the Alice in Wonderland in MBA class. The best financial professor was teaching us Alice in Wonderland, also the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, again, is about American society. It's a story also about a young girl in Kansas and get on the hurricane and transformed and moved away and kill a witch. The witch and the wizard, who is a humbug, who is a fake, is about the people in Wall Street who print the money out of the blue. It's about American society, it's about the making of money, it's about the golden standard, it's about fewer shoe as a liberation force for the poor people in the American West. So Alice in Wonderland, again, the best children's literature in the English language in England. And the language is very humorous, is about philosophy, is about mathematics theory. The Wizard of Oz is not that complicated, but it's about American history, especially financial history, economic history. Okay. So the Cheshire Cat, the Wicked Witch of the West, the wizard who looked like a Greenspan. Who is the Wicked Witch of the West? In every generation, people have different interpretation, and they are all correct. Cinderella, of course, we already know it. I don't need to mention. It's a Greek to me. In the Western tradition, there's only two books, Iliad and Odyssey. Iliad and Odyssey. Iliad, 10 years war fighting outside and then inside the city of Troy, which is located in currently West Coast Turkey. It's not in Greek. It's in the West Coast Turkey. 10 years warfare, and Odyssey, 10 years journey back home. The longing to go back home. The journey to overcome all the challenges. Physical, emotional, monster, enemy. So in the medieval time, aristocratic children in Europe only need to learn two books, Iliad and Odyssey. And then they have another heritage, which is a Greek. The beauty of a Greek, the glory of Rome, the beauty of a Greek. Greek people have a tendency of pursue knowledge for its own sake, art for art's sake. And the Roman people using the knowledge build an empire. The 1,000 years empire, the Roman Empire. And the British Empire and the current American Empire are part of it. So the Greek myth is a body of story that matters. It matters because it's still powerful. The pattern present in the mythology run deeply in the human psyche and even psyche. This psyche is from Greek. It's about sleep. It's about our dream and psychology. Okay. It's a study of our spirit, our soul, dream, aspiration, melancholy, depression, psychology. So Iliad and Odyssey are very, very important. Odyssey overcoming all the difficulty to go back home, go back to his poor kingdom, his backwater kingdom and the aging wife. Okay. Overcoming all the difficulty and the temptation. So Greek is another source of Western literature. The important people, Hector, the first son, the responsible son. In any family, you have a responsible son who want to protect the younger brother, who want to protect their father, their mother, who sacrifice for their country, even though he knows he's going to die. And of course, in every family, you have a parents, right? Like me. Okay. Irresponsible. And then the underworld. Travel to the underworld is the ultimate challenge. Facing the darkness part of human nature. Because every person in their life, especially in the so-called Middle Age, the darkest experience of anybody's life is anybody is mature, they have to experience the darkest part of human nature, the darkest side of oneself. Okay. Especially these things happened when they are in the so-called middle age of everybody's life. So the Greek story's journey is a journey to reach self-knowledge. And some other important book, okay, always poetry directly connected with the dark story of Kafka. Oedipus the King, the Oedipus trilogy, the three story, Oedipus the King, and especially Antigone, is about philosophy of law, legal philosophy, or jurisprudence, the theory behind the law, whether one's supposed to follow their consciousness, follow their internal sense of justice, follow their conscience, follow the religious rule, follow the God's rule, or follow the king's rule. What if the king's rule, what if your country's rule is injustice? Do you follow them just because they are powerful, because they can kill you, because they can put you into prison? Do you obey it because you have to, or you obey the higher consciousness? So these Greek people, they know something very deep. Cassandra, in every generation, you have these people who know a lot. When they tell the truth to the ruler, they get killed. Cassandra, that is also in every one of us. We want to hear a good story. We don't want to hear the truth. Because truths are always depressing. Truths are bad. But eventually, truth will catch up on us. And then the author talk about the fall season, the snow, death, but it's also purity. Rain both bring life, but it also can bring disaster. Without rain, there is no fertility. There's no renew. There's no regeneration of life. But too much of good thing will kill everybody. The drowning. Drowning is one of the deepest fear of everybody's psyche, the flood. T.S. Eliot, in his long poetry, The Wasteland, the one poem that started the modern poetry movement. He's using this one poetry summarize the whole Western literature, several thousand years of literature. So basically, to understand the one poetry from T.S. Eliot, you have to understand so many stories. So I made a mistake teaching this poetry to some of my best students when they were young, and the result is disaster. The result is disaster. They are not prepared. They are not prepared. Even though they obey me and then they read the poetry, but they are not ready to appreciate the beauty of the poetry. So the best thing can be, if you are not prepared, they understand every character, every word in this poetry. They don't know what's going on. For example, one very famous line, April is the cruelest month. Why April is the cruelest month? Suppose the December is the cruelest month, right? December is cold and it's dark, and April is a springtime, supposed to bring life, suppose everybody's happy, bring new leaves. Why April is the cruelest month? months, because the author is talking about the year after World War I. The war that bring disaster to the Western civilization. A whole generation of young men get totally disillusioned. And by the way, the dead body is still not fully buried. When the springtime comes, the dead body turn out from very shallow tombs because they were buried so shallow, and bring back the bad memory and even diseases. So April is the cruelest month. So in order to understand this T.S. Eliot guy, you have to prepare to understand the internal logic, the internal grammar of the English literature, of the Western literature. So I'm talking too much. I give myself 3 minutes, and then I will open the floor and ask my students and everybody here, all my friends, to ask questions, and we'll start a dialogue. So let's finish this one very fast because I give myself 45 minutes. Now I only have 3 minutes. So then violence. Violence is a part of our human life, and literature dig deeper into the meaning, symbolic action. We need to understand what is a symbol and harmful symbol and looking for symbol. For example, in the famous novel Animal Farm, each animal representing one human being. Who is Stalin, who is Hitler, who is Churchill, Trotsky. The road not taken by Robert Frost is about making choice and how difficult to make a choice. And we don't know when we're making the choice, whether the choice is right or wrong, good or bad, what is the consequence. We don't know at that moment. And then later on, we know, we think we know, it's too late. That's the road not taken. And the symbol is the road. It's the two roads diverge in a yellow wood. So the road is not only a road, it's about choice. Yellow, what yellow means? It means glory, gold, but also decay, destruction. Okay, I'm carrying too far. It's all political, political issue. We are political animal, whether we like it or not. For me, I don't like it, but it's there. For example, you have to understand the political background in order to understand 1984. Oh, the Animal Farm is all really is all political. This one word summarizes these two books, two great books. High school, middle school students have to learn. 1984 is about the Big Brother, oppression, control. Animal Farm, Russian Revolution. The whole story is Russian Revolution. Christ figure. Female can be Christ figure too. A lot of important issues. So I really hope I have the pleasure and the privilege to study these things with students. Baptism. Traveling on water, river or ocean. Geography matters. So you need to understand the setting of the story. Season, the fall season. Each season have their symbol. Okay, youth, adulthood, middle age, death, renewal, greatness, and the lack of greatness. Like landmarks can be marked as well, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. Monster story. Blind, this one is very important. Smartness and dumbness. That's in the story of King Lear is about a fool. You think you're smart, you are the biggest fool. The blindness, only sometimes the blind people who cannot see, they can see the truth. And like me, I'm not blind, I can see, but I can only see the superficial side of things. Heart diseases, heart of darkness, another great masterpiece. Illness. And certain diseases, TB. Why so many authors, especially in the 19th century, 18th century, talk about TB, lung diseases, used to be a cancer. A lot of poets have, actually they physically have that diseases. Why is that? Okay, that's it. Basically, summarize it. This book is a wonderful book. The author used his whole life of reading and teaching and summarizing these major theme of literature and tell us literature is not easy to understand and easy to understand. It's easy to understand if you know the vocabulary, you know the grammar. It's have its internal logic. And he's using all these, his experience and pointed out here. These are the points of beauty. And you need to recognize, he used the metaphor of collecting mushroom after rainfall in the forest. An experienced one who always hunting for mushroom, they can look and see. And number one, find the mushroom when you cannot see. Tell you it's there. The mushroom is there. Number two, what kind of mushroom are they? What's the species? Are they poisonous or they are edible? They are able, you can eat them and it's good for you. It won't kill you. So that's why it's experience. This one is a very good novel and I hope that during the summertime or anytime I have the opportunity to study with you. And now I open the floor for question. I open everybody, you guys can open your sound and starting to ask questions and I will answer. Okay, somebody start. Alicia, set a good example.
Do I type it?
Or else you can type in using this type to type me the question.
Okay, I'll type it.
You can ask questions here, or you can just talk. I open the floor right now. Thomas, are you there?
I'm typing it.
Why do you think that violence causes interest to the audience? Interesting question, Thomas. Why? Why so many people watch so many junky Hollywood movies? And a lot of Hollywood movies sales because there's too many violence scenes. The good things about the literature, maybe in some of violence movies, in 5 minutes, there's 10 people died. Probably for watching the movie because it's entertainment. Somehow this human species love violence and they enjoy watching all these Mission Impossible. Think about what Mission Impossible have. One violent scene after another, so your adrenaline will be high. You have anticipation and you have up and down in your emotions. That's it. But that's the fast food. That's McDonald's. That's not good food. The good food are the violence part, like King Lear, like Othello. You have a great people you look up to, they fall down. That's the violence. And you feel empathy. Like in Othello, you think you are Othello. In Hamlet, you think you are Hamlet. When he was in pain, you are in pain. When he was fighting with his enemy, you hope he will win. When he was talking about to be or not to be, you think that person is you. He's a contemplation of self-destruction. And at the end of Hamlet, when everybody died, the queen drank the wine and he died. The bad king being killed by Hamlet. Okay, Hamlet was cut by the poisoned sword. Every important thing body died except Horatio, who is a historian who have a job to write it down. These violence make you to think deeper. So answer your question, very good question. Why do you think the audience love violent scene? I think number one, for the superficial one, for entertainment. For the deeper one, because it forces us to think about ourselves or our human species. Because what is a human history? Human history is one violent act of another. They build up an empire and fall down of the empire. Okay, so we understand ourselves. We understand this human species history. Okay, finish my answer. Thank you for the good question. Now you finish number one. Yang, where are you? Where's your question?
Yeah, I don't really have a question.
家长欢迎家长用中文或者朋友们用中文回答问题。您用中文问问题，我用中文回答。那我的学生呢，用英文问问题，或者在这边打字，或者呢，直接用你的语音或者视频提问，我们回答问题，我们共同学习。OK。刚才 Thomas 那个问题就是非常好。Oh, Thomas, again, second one. Wow, you really prepared. Thank you. Why do you think, okay. How is reading literature like a conversation to the author, even though that the author has been dead for a long period of time? Another beautiful question, and it's very challenging. Let me read it again so I can think. How is reading literature like a conversation to the author? Even though that the author has been dead for a long period of time. Beautiful question. Wonderful. And I'm still waiting my other students to ask me challenging question like this. Let me try to answer it. I may be wrong, but there's no, the good thing is that there's no right answer or the wrong answer. For me, I can also talk about me and myself. Okay, joke. Reading literature is you are making friends with the author. You have to like this guy. Like everybody, when you first read Shakespeare, you hate him. You hate his gut. Because your teacher, your bad, evil teacher, force you to read them. But gradually, when you cannot answer question yourself, you have to talk with your friend. What if your friends are not available? What if your friend may not be a friend? What if you cannot trust your friend some deeper question, like to be or not to be? Because then your friend will think you are crazy, you are stupid, you are up to manipulation. You should shrink, and your shrink will just care about your money, right? Okay, money come in, time start, $450 an hour, and then they will talk with you about nonsense. Freud's junk. But when you talk with Shakespeare, I just mentioned, he know a lot of deeper things 450 years ago about our current state, current economic situation, because Shakespeare talking about human nature, and human nature never change, haven't changed much. For 450 years, haven't changed much, maybe getting more and more shallower. So when you study science and technology, you want to study the latest discovery. What's going on in Baylor? What is going on in the medical center about cancer research, about the DNA manipulation, about gene editing, making babies smarter or dumber or whatever. AI, nanotechnology. You want to study, you want to follow the people who is the latest, the best. But in literature, most of the 99.9% of the modern writing are junks, belong to the trash can, belong to the toilet. But why we study Shakespeare? Because we throw out 99.999% of all these trash to the toilet. Life is too short to read junks. Another 10 years, nobody know all these junks just printed out, so-called literature, entertainment. These are entertainment. These are the fast food and make people fat. Cannot think, cannot move. Okay, so the fast food make people fat, dumb, stupid, and the bad books, wasting your time. You better play basketball than reading the bad books. And even, especially right now, the bad books have bad grammar. They don't even have grammar. That's the so-called devolution. Rather than evolution, people going up, they going down. Like wimpy kids. Destroy English grammar gradually so people cannot think straight. And Shakespeare forcing you to face yourself, to think logically, deeply, cohesively. Thank you for your good question. I think with your good question, you can challenge me to think, which is the enjoyment. Thank you, Thomas. Samuel, why do audience always tend to forgive the mistake of the main character? Beautiful. But whenever a character who play a smaller part in the story make a smaller mistake, the audience hate them immediately. That is totally true. For example, again, you and me, we study Hamlet a little bit, right? We only studied months together. But that's good enough. So I will again use Hamlet as example to answer your question. We forgive Hamlet because you identify with Hamlet. You think you are Hamlet. And we always prefer ourselves, right? Because self-love, people always have self-love, self-pity. Oh, poor me, my girlfriend is bad to me, and it's her fault. We always forgive ourselves. Once you identify with a person, especially Hamlet, then you are Hamlet. You are this person. So you forgive yourself. But objectively, think about this guy. He's educated, overeducated freak. He didn't do anything useful. People don't know how old is Hamlet, but a lot of people think he's over teenager years, up to 30 years old. He never had one paying job, okay, because he's preparing to be a king. And he's overeducated. He was in the best university ever at that time in Germany, Wittenberg. And think about his friendship. Everybody near him get hurt or died except Horatio. Except Horatio. He, through his hand, he killed 2 classmates. And think about it, he's supposed to love one girl, and this girl being driven crazy, partially by him. And this girl's dad, he killed physically. And also his brother, Laertes. And he's mean to his mom. He had to remind himself, don't kill her. And he's continuously being he's smart, he's mean to everybody. But that guy probably potentially can be us. So we identify with him. His 2 classmates in the recent movie, they were protagonists. And through their point of view, they observe the whole conspiracy. Just think about it. If you write a whole story through the eyes of Ophelia, or through the eyes of Claudius, the bad king, that will be a masterpiece. And it's going to be so hard. So if you can write a book about Claudius, the bad king who get killed, if you, from his point of view, you write a book, that would be wonderful. Because you have somebody who always thinking he can be a king and do a better job. And you think your big brother is messing up everything, fighting a war, physically combat. You are king, you have a whole kingdom to run. Now you go to the ice and you are having physical fighting with another king and kill that guy. You bring your whole country into disaster. And you are not very responsible, but you are pursuing your ambition. So wonderful question. So to bring back, why we tend to identify with protagonists, even though that guy can be a jerk, can make a lot of mistakes, because we identify with them, because of the human tendency for self-love, self-centeredness. And the other people are in the background. We don't identify with them. Our sympathy, our empathy have a limitation. That's a very good question. So next student, ZZ Lee. Why is that people identify with the main character, and even when sometimes the main character has nothing to do with them? If we identify with the main character because we are partially connected, the whole world is connected. The whole world is your problem. The whole world is my problem. If you are reading the book, it's your problem. Make sense? It's your job to identify with anybody in the book, and through their eye to observe the world and anticipate what you are going to do next step, what the character do next step, put you into the situation. If you cannot do that, throw that book away because it didn't have the connection with you. Okay, throw it away. Don't waste your time. Okay, actually, seriously, that's true. Okay. My understanding is that first session have 5 classes. How many chapters will be covered in 5 classes? A good question. Do you have class curriculum for the first session? First section, think about it. This book have more than 20 chapters. So I'm going to talk about each class. I will talk about 1 topics. Okay, for example, quest is 1 chapter. We can do, sometimes this quest, they have 2 chapters in the book. This book have 27 chapters. Actually, we can do 27 classes, but I don't think during the summertime, the students have 27 times have the endurance to do that. So I'm going to talk about, of course, Hamlet. We are going to talk about Shakespeare and Shakespeare's influence in us. The basic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Shakespeare things. This one probably will last 2 classes. If the students are very active, I can finish in 1 class. And the Bible. Okay, the Bible theme, and especially the Bible theme in this book, they talk about the Bible theme and many books building the connection. And Greek, and the fairy tale, and the beginning and the end. That would be the 5 class. So to answer your question logistically, we are going to start a class from a Monday to Friday. That would be 1 session. Each morning from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Using the same Zoom, same ID. Okay, students can just show up. And it's a $40 an hour. So I hope students can stick with me for 1 week. And if you want to study another session, we can do that. So this book, we can talk forever. Actually, this book for a high school in Houston, Carnegie, is a 1 whole semester's class. 1 whole semester. So my job is to get students interested, talk with them about the best part of this book, and answer their questions. Thank you for that. That's very good question. Okay. Any other question? Hopefully I answered your question. How can the knowledge you learn from study literature be applied into your everyday life? In what way could it benefit you? Beautiful question. That is really your thinking. That I understand that is really in the mind of many high school students. Let me translate it more bluntly for the boys' language. The girls' language is very nice. And the boys' language, sometimes when they tell me the truth, why I learn this junk? It's useless to me. The author died for 200 years or even more. I hate it. Other than torture, I don't learn anything. That's the majority of students' real mentality. So thank you for bringing that question to me, because I actually, when I was teaching students, I study my students. I study myself when I was that age. I was envisioning when I was a high schooler, what was I thinking? Did it benefit me? I don't know. To answer your question, is literature useful? I don't know. But I know it's actually beneficial. Why is it beneficial? Because in order to be an educated person, you need to understand it. You need to understand yourself, number one. You need to understand other people. If you really understand the literature, you understand the people in front of you. You understand how they were thinking. Eventually, you will go to college, right? You will go through a lot of interviews. You go through a lot of interviews. And these people in front of you eventually will give you a job. And eventually, you will deal with a lot of people. You have to write essays. The best college application essay I have ever read are the ones that can emotionally move our people. Move the people in front of you. Move the people who read your essay. And you are standing there as a human being with emotion. So literature is about especially deep human psyche and human emotion. And you have to build connection between peoples so people can hire you. So you can deal with a very complicated human problem. With all these advances in technology, a lot of simple manual job, even mental manual job, will be replaced. But as long as this human species persisting, you can always ready yourself for the adult world by understanding yourself, by understanding other people, by understanding the people you deal with. For example, why people study Odyssey? What is Odyssey? Odyssey is this guy who's being thrown all over the world in the Mediterranean area. This island, that island, he had to deal with a monster, he had to deal with a human being, he had dealing with the pretty ladies and the goddess who want to, some people want to eat him, some people him to stay there. And he can always use his brain to survive. So a real education is that whenever, doesn't matter what kind of fate, fortune gave you, if you gain self-knowledge and the ability to deal with a serious challenge, you can survive. That's the reason for education. So to understand, to give you a broader perspective, that kind of self-knowledge and the knowledge to understand the other human psyche will benefit you. Especially for you, for your high schoolers, for your college application letter, for your interview. For example, in the online class, I have invited my college classmates to teach high school students SAT reading comprehension. And my classmates was educated in Harvard and was the president of alumni in the Atlanta area. And when 10 high schoolers all over China from different cities and different states in the United States, when they were there, when they asking questions for several seconds, after 1 or 2 seconds, after 1 or 2 questions, after 1 or 2, not seconds, maybe minutes, maybe 10 minutes, I know who they are, I mean my students. The depths of the question reflect your character. And understanding literature, especially classical literature like Shakespeare, Fitzgerald, Hemingway, Great Gatsby, force you to think deeper. And that kind of mental muscle you build will always be there with you. And that wealth, you cannot even hide it. Hopefully I answered that question. That's a beautiful question. Good. Alicia, you still owe me 2 questions. And Yang, where are you? You're supposed to wake up already. Okay, question. Okay, I will wait for 1 minute and hopefully my students, especially Yang, you need to give me some question. How do you find inspiration to begin a challenging novel? Good question. How do you find inspiration? And I think your really question is, how do you find the motivation to begin a challenging novel? Okay. The beautiful thing about American educational system, especially in 8th grader above high school, the best private school mean a private school that force you to read challenge book. You can evaluate the level of a school by the book, the challenging book, they gave that to you. Some people spend a lot of money to go to the best private school in high school, or even they go to Harvard and Yale. But if don't read the challenging book, challenging novel, they are wasting the educational experience. Seriously. Which means reading good novel, you are using the very good language. Challenging. Challenging means you have to overcome many difficulties, jump over many hoops, overcoming difficulty, which means they force you to think in this entertainment age. More and more teachers, they want entertainment. The students want entertainment and they are paying for it. Some teachers, a lot of them are giving that to them, giving them entertainment. But the real entertainment is a hard work. You have to overcoming many painful experience in order to get the real pleasure. The real pleasure of appreciating beauty. So to answer your question, there's a higher answer, there's a middle level answer, there's more concrete answer. The concrete answer is you need to find inspiration by the necessity of it. If I understand a challenging novel, I'm going to do well on SAT reading comprehension. I'm going to be able to write better, more appealing, more convincing, more moving essays. And people will like me people will give me a better job. Hopefully, okay. Nobody knows this or luck. But inspiration is that the author itself, they survive the sling and arrow of the hard time. And when the author died many years, these bad teachers still using their book to forcing each and every generation, the best men, to think hard and deep. That's the reason to have an education. So I hope that can be an inspiration. It's useful and it's hard. But anything that worthwhile to do is hard, okay? Anything that is easy, doesn't need any effort, are bad. So in order to gain the ability to appreciate beauty, that is the reason to read a challenging novel. Hopefully that answers your question. Thomas, you always give me good question. Hopefully I will live up to your standard. Would you agree on the statement that literature is the study of humanity? Of course, yes, I really like. Yes, literature is the study of humanity. Since we are, you and me, we are part of this humanity, like it or not. So we have to understand humanity. We have to understand ourselves before it's too late, okay? Before we don't have the power to think, okay? Since our society and our living conditions are changing every day, no, our society changing, yes, changing, but no, we don't change. Human nature doesn't change much. People have love, we always will have love, right? People have jealousy, we will always have jealousy. People have disappointment, searching for life's meaning. Every major theme in the classical literature doesn't change. Unless AI may change everything, right? Genetic engineering may change or may not change anything. Right? Unless alien, just take over. We're all totally enslaved or eliminated. Then we don't have to worry about anything, right? Which is good, right? If we are eliminated, we don't have to worry about anything. But before that thing happens, we need to study literature because we have to understand ourselves and our fellow beings. Yes, your summary is very good. Our society and our living conditions are changing. Think about the living condition. We have a house, you have a house, or you have an apartment. King Lear had a palace. How do you compare with that? Do you have a palace? You don't even have a palace. But yes, King Lear don't have AC system. But when King Lear from palace go to the wilderness, he facing the thunderstorm, he get himself naked and he found it out. He is naked in front of the whole universe. That thing doesn't change. Yes, we have an AC system, but we still have spring and we still have summer. That human condition didn't change yet. Okay. Do you think that humanity could have changed throughout? Yeah, I answered that question. Human being has been here for how long? People have disagreement, but very long. Think about from Shakespeare to right now, 450 years. 450 years in this species compared with the species from Lucy coming out of Africa is nothing. Okay, grandmom's Lucy coming from Africa. Okay, maybe 山顶洞人 from Beijing. From that time frame, from Shakespeare to now, from the Bible's time to now, we didn't change much. Okay. Will you share today's recording session for those who are not able to join? Yes, I'm recording it, and I will try my best and to put it on YouTube and send to you. Thank you for everybody's bearing with me for so long, and I'm really appreciate. Without the encouragement of friends and the encouragement of my students, I cannot do this. I cannot even enjoy the pleasure of teaching literature to my students. Actually, to tell you the truth, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy teaching my students literature because whenever I'm teaching them, I'm using their eye to observe. Even when they hate it, I remember I used to hate it, right? So I'm reliving literature masterpiece through my students' perspective, my students' point of view, and they always give me challenge. I give them a challenge, they give me a challenge. Even their negative comment on the book gave me inspiration, forcing me to think harder and deeper and share my perspective and enthusiasm about literature with my students. That's the aim. Okay, I will wait for 1 minute, and whoever have questions, and after 1 minute without question, I will stop this one. But definitely I will share the recording with everybody.尤其是感谢朋友们和同学们给我提出这么宝贵的问题，没有您的这个问题，我肯定是讲的也不会好，回答的也不会好。有这么好的非常 challenge 的问题，那么呢，我才能有机会跟你们回答。然后呢，希望同学们仔细的阅读一下这本书。那么我有网上的书籍，哪位朋友一会儿呢，在我结束这个课之后，如果是您把您的电邮打出来，我会把这个书和刚才的讲座的时候使用的 PPT PowerPoint 发给您。再一次感谢朋友们给我这个机会，跟朋友们一起来分享我的一些学习观感。非常希望呢，有机会跟同学们在下个星期，星期一到星期五早晨休斯顿时间10点钟到11点钟，跟同学们共同学习，跟同学们朋友们一起学习，对我的是一个 privilege， 是一个非常 enjoyment 的 experience。谢谢朋友们的关注，希望有机会跟同学们共同分享这方面的心得，再次感谢。